sound of a cammed LS7, isn't it? So this is what we got today in the dyno, the 2007 Z06. I did a baseline on this car a couple weeks back. I'm going to turn this car off so we can take a look at my first pull, and we can kind of talk about what's going on with this car. So I did a baseline on this car, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago now. We finally got around to doing it. So I did our stage 2 LS7 cam, mid 230s, low 250s on the exhaust. So you have mid 230s intake, low 250s exhaust at 50 for duration. Lift is mid 600s, and LSA is 113-ish. We did obviously the MSD. We did pull the cylinder heads off this car and fix the valve guides. Even though this car is a low mileage car, it's got 7,000 miles on it. On LS7s, we pretty much, any customer wants to do any internal work on an LS7, we basically aren't going to do it unless we fix the heads. These things have a valve issue where the guides wear excessively from the valve stems. The intake valves are titanium, and the finish on the stems isn't quite right from GM, and there's been about a lot of talk about that, a lot of issues with it. A lot of guys had problems with it where they're dropping valves. So we always fix that. We don't do anything internal until we can fix it, unless we can fix the cylinder heads. So we did that on this car. We fixed the valves. We had the stems refinished, and so we're still running the stock intake valve, which is just a refinish on it, which we have really good luck with. And then we have new guides installed in the cylinder heads. So valve job, there's a little bit of pocket porting that we have done on the heads, but otherwise the cylinder head is pretty much the factory LS7 port. We didn't do anything further as far as porting the heads out bigger, removing a bunch of material out of the ports. So basically the heads are just repaired, valve job, nothing crazy on the porting. I did match the MSD. Those MSD intakes do come with some casting flash, some of that molding, they're injection molded plastic, and some of the edges of that injection molding when they put the two halves together at the, especially on the runners where it hits the head, you'll see some rough edges and some of the stuff hanging out into the port. So I clean that up, kind of match to the stock LS7 head. I don't do any work unless the customer requests it internally, as far as the port entry or the runner entry with the air horns or anything. They're pretty nice. I'll kind of inspect them though. I always take them all apart and inspect those MSDs and the FAST also. I always take those apart and inspect them for flaws in the molding, and if there is any, I'll clean that up. So we also did a Halltech cold air. We really like those. They make really nice power, and we did do 102 millimeter throttle body on it. So, and I should mention, of course, our Nickey edition American Racing headers, 2-inch primary, 3-inch X pipe, off-road connection pipe to the factory cat back and mufflers. So basically the factory mufflers. So over the axle on these Z06s, that's a 3-inch over the axle pipes to the mufflers, and that stuff flows really well. You don't start to see restrictions on that stuff until 700, 800 wheels. So we just leave it. It sounds nice. You still retain the dual mode if you want to have the quiet, when he fires it up in the morning or something. But so yeah, that's kind of the rundown on this car, what we did. I just finished it up this morning, and bolting everything back on it and getting fluids back in it, getting it warmed up, got a bass tune in it. So I just did a bass tune quick. I've done, again, tuning up cars like this, and you can throw, I know where I need to be kind of on a bass tune to get it to start and idle, get the fueling right, so get the timing tables right. So here's my first pull. My very first pull. I'm still a little short on timing. Again, I always start off conservative, you never know. So we're not too far off where I wanted to be. I wanted to see 585, maybe 590. I think 590 might be a stretch on this without doing any head work. Really, again, there isn't really any head work done other than a valve job. Without opening up the cylinder heads, doing a really larger port job, it's hard to hit that 600 mark. And we aren't, our stage 2 LS7 cam isn't anything crazy aggressive. We like leaving that duration in the mid 230s on the intake, just because it makes for a drivable car. This car isn't going to be raced. It may see a drag strip once just to see what it runs, but it's a driver. Again, this is a driver. He just wanted a cam sound and add some power with headers and a cam. So we don't go crazy with something, you know, it's 245, 260, you know, we certainly could, but you start getting into camshafts like that and you start losing a lot of drivability. And I know the LS7s do like a lot of duration. They'll make a lot of power up in here, you know, 7,000 RPM when you do a real big lobe like that, but it really starts to take away from the drivability of them. So we stick with that. The Stage 2 cam is real popular. We stick with that mid 230s on the intake, and it makes the car really drivable, and it makes a real nice broad torque curve. So again, I'm going to do some more working runs here, and we'll keep coming back to the dyno graphs and kind of see as I work up. I'm pretty close, honestly. The fueling was really close. I was a little bit lean in the bottom end. You know, timing, I'm low 20s right now, so there's definitely some room on the timing, but I like to always creep up on the timing because every car is a little different. And you know, sometimes some cars will take, you know, a car like this, sometimes they'll take 27, 28 degrees, and sometimes they'll take 26 degrees. So I always kind of work up from the bottom. I always set them low. I kind of always have a base starting kind of timing table I set on these, as well as any of the other cars I tune. I have kind of a bunch of files of some base tunes that I always start with and stuff like this. So yeah, I'm gonna set the camera down, and we'll do a couple more runs on it and video those, and then we'll come back to the graphs and see where I end up. Here's where we're at so far. I just did a couple more pulls. Obviously working my way up here a little bit. It's liking fuel. So the very first run here, 578, I was lambda. I always like talking to lambda. I was 0.88, 0.87 at the richest, even hitting this 0.89. I was pretty lean for a setup like this. This last run I just did 591, 538 torque. I'm now still a little lean in a couple spots. I'm gonna richen it up. I tried playing with the timing a little bit up top here. I actually took some timing out. It seems like it does like that extra timing. I'm gonna try to, you know, these LS7s will carry out to 7, so it does seem like it wants to see 27, maybe 28 degrees up top. That last pull, I had it pulled back to 26 up top. Mid-range, I'm low 20s, 23. I'm gonna try adding some timing from between 3 and 4,500 to see if I can pick up, maybe smooth some of this wave tuning you get in these intake manifolds, the way that they resonate. You get some of these waves in the torque curve, and sometimes you can play with the timing to kind of smooth that out, but that's just kind of the nature of those MSD intakes. They have really powerful wave tuning at specific RPMs with the real good runners they have. So, but otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm already kind of at my power goal. I wanted to see 590. I'd like to see 540 torque. I'm just about there. But yeah, so I'm gonna make a couple tuning changes on this, and then we'll do some in-car tack runs, and we'll see where we end up. All right, guys, just about got this warmed up. Bring the oil temperature up a little bit. Make sure that's got some temperature in it. I made a couple changes to the fueling and timing. And right there, it's about 180 degrees on the coolant, so let's slow this down. All right, let's hit this. Take a look at that. Looks like I'm pretty much where I was before. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen. Added a little bit of timing, added about a degree. Yeah, I'm just looking back on my log here. So, you can kind of look at that final log. I think that's where I'm going to leave it. Air fuel. Again, that yellow line at the very bottom in lambda. 0.87, 0.878, 0.87, 0.86. I'm pretty happy with that. That's right where I want to be. That seems to be where it's happy. Timing, mid-20s. It liked having a little bit of timing in there. It doesn't seem to really matter. I might try one more pull with adding a little bit more timing down low, but I was getting some knockdown here before on one of those other runs when I tried adding timing down at 3,000 RPM. It was starting to pick up a little bit more. Here's a couple nibbles, but I was getting like a couple degrees, and so it seems to be about that's where it likes it. Peak torque, again, you can kind of see this seafoam colored line. That's the air mass. That's going to follow the torque curve pretty closely, not exact, but that's kind of the airflow curve of the engine. You know, higher the air mass, the more air you're moving through the motor, and that's a calculation done by the ECU based on mass airflow sensor and manifold pressure. So yeah, you can see peak torque on the dyno is about 5,000 RPM. You can see here it's coming right up to that point. It's climbing up into that 1.1 air mass right about 5,000. It's kind of holding across to 6,000. So that's where I got to have a little bit of timing pulled out there. But then it's liking some timing up top. So 27 and a half. And yeah, that looks pretty good. It's I'm pulling that to. Was pulling that to 7120. I set the rev limiter at 7200. Stock, the hard rev limiter on these things is 7200. The soft limiter is at 71. I just set the hard limiter. I just basically take the soft limiter off, set the hard limiter, the fuel cut at 72. These LS7s are extremely durable. You can rev these engines up, you know, GM designed these engines with the tie rods and tie intake valves. I mean, they designed them to go 75 plus when they were developing these engines. So when we put good valve train in them, I'm not afraid to rev one at all. So our camshaft that we use in these LS7s and also the LT1s, the reason I'm mentioning that other engine, both those engines have a 1.8 rocker. So the lobes I like to use on these on the LS7, anything with a 1.8 rocker, I like to use a little bit softer lobe. It's a little bit softer hit on the spring, and you know, again, valve train stability is key on, you know, when you're building a camshaft combination like this. So, but yeah, that's that data log. Let's go look at these curves, and I'll just pull up that last final pull. I got all those working runs up there, and let me shut these fans off so we can. So yeah, again, same exact. I made a couple changes. And I mean, again, I added a degree. It didn't really do anything. And even down here, it looks like it might have, yeah. I mean, you can see the yellow and green lines are the last two runs, and they're almost mirroring each other. So almost identical power. So I'm gonna leave it. I might pull that degree of timing out just because it didn't do anything, but I'll probably leave it rich. Just, again, I like being safe. So let's close all these down. Let's take a look at the last one. So there's that final curve. I kind of smoothed this out in here a little bit. Before it was kind of wavy. It's a little bit more smoothed out, but trying to play with the timing a little bit. I try to smooth those pulse tuning waves out a little bit on those intake manifolds. But I'm happy with that. Again, for a camshaft that's a mid 230s intake lobe, and really not much head work at all. Again, valve job and a little bit of bowl cleanup to match the valve job is all that we had done on those heads. We did not have an actual, you know, anything further than what GM does on their CNC porting. So obviously there's more power to be had if you fully ported the heads. You know, CNC ported them. There's more power in those LS7 heads. There's another 15-20 wheel on a full port job, but we didn't think it was necessary in this build. The customer didn't really want to spend the extra money on a full port job on them, so we didn't do it. And again, you know, being close to 600 wheel is pretty nice with an intake lobe that's that small. I'm happy with that. So then the all important, of course, we got to go back to that baseline. So back to that first video I did. I might have done 2 runs. Yeah. So those are the 2 baseline runs I did. So there, you can see that's against stock. So this car was bone stock, completely stock intake, stock everything, and that's what it made. So there's our delta, and that's really what we're after here is on the dyno. You know, you can race dynos on final numbers all you want, but this is the true test right here, is how much we gained with our modifications. This is really what we're after on this dyno. And this is why we have the dyno to tune and show a difference. And you can see, I'll strip it down to just that last one. Close all these. Just so we're looking at two. I know it's a little easier that way. Pull this down here so we can kind of see those curves. So there it is. That is a, again, I'll run that back. So that was a bone stock 2007 Z06 LS7 engine. The blue line. The red line is our American Racing 2-inch headers, our Stage 2 LS7 camshaft, a MSD manifold, heads that were repaired with a little valve job done on them, and a Halltech cold air intake, and a 160-degree thermostat. So that is that's a nice jump in power right there.